Hi, everybody. Welcome to the summit. My name is Lori Gambacorta, and I have the pleasure of being here today with Brian Vaisley. Brian is a leading expert in healthy aging and longevity with over 20 years of experience as a researcher and advocate. He's the founder of theartofantiaging.com, a popular health destination with over 500,000 members dedicated to natural solutions for thriving in life. Brian also hosts the Art of Anti-Aging's widely respected summits, which have reached over 3 million people. Also, he's the founder of Purity Woods, a fast-growing certified organic skincare and supplement company. Thank you for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us to help people live the best year of their life.
Well, hi, Lori. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to help people do exactly that this year, live the best year of your life. I love that. And I also love how you said anti-aging, because I'm the founder of the Art of Anti-Aging, and I always catch myself saying anti-aging, as a lot of people do. So maybe that's the old Chicago accent or something. But I was impressed. And you pronounced my last name correctly. Vaisley rhymes with Paisley. And my whole life, people have gotten that wrong. Vasily, actually, the old Hungarian way is Vasily, but I'm not going to make anybody suffer through saying that. So yeah, thank you for.
I like it though. I like
intro.
it. Well, let's kick off with talking about premature aging, and you've identified false comfort as a contributor to premature aging. So can you explain to people what exactly that means and how they can break out of that comfort zone to promote healthier aging?
Well, again, I've been deep in the research about healthy aging and longevity, with a strong focus on natural approaches for decades. And I do get the question all of the time, what is the number one worst thing that people do that contributes to early aging and frankly, early death? And often I realize people are looking for that very physical thing. But here's the reality. I would bet money that just about everybody listening right now has enough knowledge about proper diet and proper exercise, for example, to live a good 15, 20 years longer, and look, as great as you ought to look, for your age. Most people do, unfortunately, look a lot older than they should, just like, other organs in their body act a lot older than they should because of all kinds of poor habits. So most people today already have enough of that knowledge about the physical aspect, with the potential exception, and let's dive into this later on, of the vast problem that most people are unaware of how vast it is and how impactful it is of physical toxins. But aside from that, most people have enough knowledge, Lori, to do it. The problem is they're not doing it. And so that begs the question, well, what's the impasse? Why do most people know the very important essentials about eating healthy, exercising properly, and yet most people are not yet implementing these into their lives? What is going on here? So when we talk about false comfort, it's very false. And what that is referring to is that the answers at the end of the day are not out there. They're in here, in each of us. And what is the number one block? What is your personal number one block? In a very general sense, for most people, frankly, it is some sort of fear. Fear shows its face in different ways, in terms of excessive worry about things, in terms of excessive anger about things. And we see this a lot. It's a microcosm inside of us, and the macro is what we see in society today, where everybody is so angry about things, and this side is very angry at that side, and there's all this polarity. But there's a big problem. That polarity is just a reflection, frankly, of the polarity inside of us. So the false comfort is that we are going to find the answers in the next superfood, or in the next supplement, or in the next whatever it is out there. That is a deadly game to try to play that, because the reality is there are things inside of you, and this is directed to each and every person pretty much. There are things inside of you that you're not facing, that you've gotten very comfortable in this habit of not facing these, and it's causing you incredible discomfort. It's causing you early aging. It's causing you death. So it's very difficult to say, obviously, down to a specific level, what that may be for each person, although I can say that there are some common themes. When we talk about, again, diet and food and all the big problems out there in the world today regarding poor diets and poor habits when it relates to not getting enough exercise, and really poor habits in relation to consuming too many toxins and so forth, those are not real problems. Those are byproducts of the real problem, the real cause. And if people do not confront the real cause, which again starts inside of them, honestly, I've seen it. I've seen it in an academic sense. They're spinning their wheels. They're not going to be able to live the best year of their life and the best many years and decades of their life without facing that down and properly addressing that. And I was going to say that in many, many cases, the consequential health issues have their basis in relationship issues, in financial issues, but probably first and foremost, relationship issues. Now, there has fortunately been a fair amount or more of research and effort to spread the word about past trauma that people have not dealt with properly, and how it causes issues. And that's true. There's a lot of present trauma causing people a lot of issues too. That present trauma can, for example, include exposure to the poison called media. Media, it plays on people's fears, their insecurities, these areas where we have not fully gone deep inside of ourselves and resolved, and are not truly comfortable. And so there is a traumatic experience every time, I would say, that you watch. I don't care if you're a Fox News watcher or a CNN watcher or anything in between, whatever it may be. They are for-profit industries, and they prey on you.
Right.
Because it's mighty profitable.
Because that's how they can sell things.
Right.
Right.
And so that's just one example. And we allow that. And so do the other mega industries that are not truly the cause of ill health, but they sure contribute to it. Big pharma, big food, big cosmetic industry, as I mentioned, big media. Really, there's a giant industry behind all those that profit immensely, which is the chemical industry. They all profit immensely off of our internal unresolved issues. If we were aware of these fears, this anger inside of us, and we had strong control over it, I'm not saying these are bad emotions. There are no bad emotions. Instead, I'm saying it's the difference between those emotions controlling us and therefore other entities, institutions, people controlling us, or ourselves controlling them. It is the answer if you are truly looking to have the best year of your life, and the best and longest life possible is to go inside of yourself and truly understand those. Be honest with yourself. We could talk about, some very basic ways to do that.
Yeah. Well, let's do that. There's so many directions we could go here, and I do want to talk about personal care products and the cosmetic industry. I've actually written articles myself around that, and that I think people in this day and age would still find it kind of shocking and surprising, what's in those personal care products. But let's stick with emotion for now. As you're speaking, I'm kind of hearkening back to, this is, I guess, many, many years ago, reading books like Deepak Chopra's Quantum Healing and Candace Pert's Molecules of Emotion. So it's been decades since those books were written that have the scientific proof that shows us the connection between our emotions and all of our other physiological processes that are happening in our body, and so we do know that emotions are inflammatory, and we also know that inflammation is one of the things that's driving the chronic health crisis that we're having. So What steps do you recommend for people to start addressing the inner issues that they're talking about and dealing with those emotions? Because,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember as a kid being taught about this is an emotion and this is how you deal with it. So what do we do now? What's some of your advice for addressing those
Right,
issues?
right. Well, first on the very physical front, it is beyond a doubt. If not the primary influencer of your physical health, is your emotional, mental health, or lack thereof. Um, it has everything to do with creating new neurons, new pathways in your brain, or not. Meaning, it has everything to do with avoiding or not dementia and other cognitive decline. I can go on. It's key to your heart health. It's key to every organ in your body. It's key to your physical health. You've got to get fully honest and aware. So how do you do that? Well, again, the problem is that people are racing today, looking for answers out there. There's a ton of, frankly, I love events like this because it really puts into focus the most important key steps that people ought to focus on. Well, what people are often doing instead is they're going online every day and they're getting all of this overabundance, this scattering of health information from all sorts of sources. They're confused. They become junkies, and they don't have clarity. Really, what's most important? Well, again, what people really ought to do is I guess it could sum up in one word, but there's a lot of, oh boy, here we go, associated with this word, but it's mindfulness, okay? But it's not mindfulness in the way that you're going to roll your eyes and go, oh, mindfulness. But it's mindfulness in the sense that we need to step away from everything and everybody who are vying for our attention. It has everything to do with everybody wants our attention because attention at the end of the day equals profit. Okay, at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, that's what and so we are certainly all attention deficit disorder in a sense because everywhere you turn, we're connected to media. Basically, everyone's on their phone, everyone's in front of some screen almost constantly today, or it's nearby. We need to move away from that, and people need to get very mindful about themselves. And they need to, when I say honest, what really it's to dive in. And I do it in this way. And I routinely do this. Routinely, I might do it every week, depending on how I feel, or every month. I do a full being scan, I will call it. This is only one of many ways in. And I will
Mm-hmm.
go to a place where I have kids too. So I will go to a place where there will be no interruptions from anybody, including the kids, where I definitely don't have any screens, no phone near me. For me, nature is a great promoter of enabling this. So I will try to go, to some natural places to help the cause, so to speak, and I will scan my physical body to see if there's any issues to notice from the top down. If there's physical issues inside of me somewhere, because that's always a sign. So there might be tension in the neck, there might be pain that I've been experiencing and not even fully aware of it. I don't know, in my head or in my gut, etc. But I'll also do a being scan and say, what is really bothering you? What's in the way here? What is in the way? We're human. I do this. I've been doing this for a long time. Because I'm human, I'm always finding things. So there's never perfection. It's a constant process to understand. And for me, when I recognize there is fear, there's anger and fear. What is that about? All right. Most of the time when I trace it, it really does have something to do with A, relationship issues, B, there can be financial concerns, C, health issues. So it's kind of like a cat eating, chasing, or a dog really chasing its tail, because those health issues are often an outcome of these other issues. So I'm like, all right, these issues that I have not, properly addressed, be it with a spouse, someone from the past, often guilt or anger at myself for something done or not done at some point. These things are, as I started this conversation, saying the real cause behind the cause. And that is how you get to know them. It is just mindful time with yourself where you're truly honestly assessing these. I find it very helpful to have a pen and paper nearby, to write it down. It doesn't have to be poetry when you do this, folks. There is something about the writing process. I can get geeky with you on the research related to this, but the physical act of writing pulls some of the truth out of you that may not otherwise get pulled out if you're simply trying to think. It's a very physical process that pulls deeper. So you might look and reflect on, okay, there is things in the way inside of me. Again, often this has to do with relationships, with your children, with someone from your past, with an ex, with a current spouse, I brought it up earlier, with the other side out there. I'm so angry at them for thinking differently from me, and they're ruining our world. And, anything like that. These are relationships. You have to be aware of the real problem before you could possibly solve the problem. Most people are not aware. They think, oh, poor diet. So, like I said, but they have enough knowledge, Lori. They already have enough knowledge to change it, but they're not making the changes because there's deeper causes in the way. You've got to be aware of something in order to work toward resolving it.
That's beautiful. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said something really profound. She was in the midst of a relationship issue, having a rather heated discussion with her partner, and she said, "You know what? It just hit me that he's not having a conversation with me. He's having a conversation with his perceptions."
There you go.
So can you speak a little bit to that? So, I mean, yes, you have to be aware of the relationship issues and the other underlying issues. So what are some of the ways to actually move out of those habits and patterns that we've developed that at some point might have been beneficial to sort of get us
question.
through life,
Yep.
but now have become maladaptive. So
Yep.
how do you coach people out of that? What do you tell them?
Well, your friend brings up in her very eloquent wording, perhaps the biggest issue of all, which is, in my words, we often find ourselves, if we really do this work, we find that we have been living scripts, stories that often, by the way, were handed to us, stories, and we are contributing to those perceptions that are not really true. What do I mean? Well, a simple way to understand this is perhaps and it's not the only way, I really want to importantly caveat that, but to go back to school, for example, when you were a school child, I don't care if that was grade school or elementary school, high school, what was the story about you? Meaning, a lot of kids are the bully, the funny one, the one who shows great academic promise, the one who's going to be the homemaker, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of stories handed to us, even from a very young age before that. And we adopt these stories, and then we often end up living all of our lives within those scripts that are handed to us. But the reality is, nobody is the funny one only. No one is the angry one. No one is the bully. No one is anything. No one. Everyone is all of these things. We have all of these aspects to ourselves. But a lot of times, a lot of the other aspects to our being get sequestered, pushed down, because we're supposed to be the strong one. And so those who are perceived as the strong one are often excessively leaned on in life and thought they don't need help, but they do need help, because the strong ones are just as weak in certain situations as everybody else, as just one example here. The serious one is not serious. They need to laugh too and enjoy life. These scripts were handed. And so people, we portray those artificial scripts in life, and then it often can impact our relationships. Was as I noted, then it ends up impacting our health because we're not effectively recognizing. It's not even dealing with it. The most important key is to get alone with yourself and go deep and just recognize all this. Do the work of understanding self first and what is really in your way and the reality. For example, what scripts are you living? What stories are you living that are not entirely or even partially, in some cases, true? You're much more than one or two roles. You're not a mother. You're not a grandmother. You're not, an accountant. Those are small pieces of each of us, and we have many aspects, many roles, but we often get or allow ourselves to get pushed into these roles, and that's how people perceive us. And then when we don't serve them properly on those fronts, tension is created. So we have to get a hold of that first before pointing the finger at anyone else for pointing back at us about that. We have to get a hold of that and awareness of that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that talking about emotion and how it's related to health and other people's perceptions. Your work emphasizes the importance of not letting other people control our emotions. So, what's some advice you could give for people who are in that process of trying to regain emotional control? I mean, you already mentioned, get out in nature. The writing, which I would call self-inquiry, which is something I also use a lot and suggest other people use a lot. What are some other things to that they can do to?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really does start with self-inquiry. It's a great term for it. And there are, again, there's trigger words here. I'm all wanting to caveat all the time, because when I say mindfulness, I caveated that. When I say meditation, it's mighty helpful, but there's still oh boy, that's really hard aspect to it, or oh, I've heard that before. And it tends to go in one ear and out the other with a lot of people. I've seen this over and over again. Again, we've reached millions of people. I've gotten all kinds of feedback, real honest feedback from people. So yes, meditative sorts of practices will help you deeply with this self inquiry, but it does not have to be the Buddhist monk approach to it. Now, if you are doing that, kudos to you, because it's mighty powerful. But there are so many ways to meditate, so many ways to be mindful. It starts with getting away as far as possible. And I don't mean in miles, although that might be helpful too, but that's not realistic. As far away as possible from all of the chatter vying constantly for your attention, and not just really vying for your attention, vying for you to benefit them. That's important. So you need to go somewhere. It could be into a bedroom. It could be anywhere where you can get very calm as possible, where if you need to, you can do very physical activities to enact that calm. I talked about a body scan. There's all kinds of little tricks and exercises that work for different people in different ways to really calm you and get you more and more centered and relaxed. Some people, like the physical approach or of adaptogens, for example. There's certain herbs nature provides, and there's powerful herbs and spices and certain mushrooms, reishi mushrooms, are outstanding to help the cause, so to speak. There are, and for others, they like tactics more so. And you could do calming exercises that are, very much addressing your vagus nerve, like breath work. Breath work's remarkable. I love it. I use it. And, there's all kinds of fancy approaches, and they work, for breath work. But a couple of the simplest approaches when it comes to breath work are just deep breathe, hold it, exhale for about the same amount of time. That's called box breathing. That'll get you there if you do that, repeatedly. It's sending a physical signal to your brain when you do that. When you deep breathe, slowly breathe in, slowly breathe out, it's sending a very physical message to your brain saying, brain, we're calming down now. And the brain's like, okay, all right, now we're going into a calmer place. So there's all kinds of tactics. And I could sit here for 2 hours and give you all kinds of tips on that front. Different ones resonate with different people. I gave you a few just now. But whatever the case may be, it is getting alone with yourself. Now, you brought up And I think it's important to expand. It's also a very pure knowledge and awareness of who and how, who may be taking advantage of you and how. Because again, the reason they are able to, well, sorry for such a harsh way of putting this, get you is because they know most people are mighty vulnerable today more than ever. We are not addressing our stress. We are not addressing all this anger, which is all based in a sort of fear. And what for if you are someone who is entirely self-centered and nothing but pure profit motive, what a wonderful way to get money out of people. Okay. So the antidote to that is that people need to be fully aware that no, the pharmaceutical industry is not your friend. No surprise there, but neither is the food industry. Neither, as you noted, is the
Yeah.
cosmetic industry by any stretch of the imagination. Neither, and this one is hard for some people because they're such devotees of certain media, but neither is the media. They're all
Mhm.
there to make money. And I've got news for people. The people over at, the one on the far left and the one on the far right are laughing together all the way to the bank by playing people. That's the reality of it. And how are they doing that? I always like to give, we could go for hours on this too, Lori, but when you go to the grocery store, be on your best defense, okay? Because it's such a
Yeah.
beautifully horribly, beautifully planned environment to get the most out of you as possible.
Mhm.
That's just
Mhm.
one of many examples here. From the music that you don't think about playing overhead to the smell and where they've placed the bakery. This is all very strategic and it's designed to pull the
Yes.
most money out of your pocketbook and get you to eat the stuff that's most profitable, which happens to be usually the most processed, cheap garbage. It's all carefully planned with that, with the industry called cosmetics and beauty care, with, like I said, certainly the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry itself, and this is not conspiracy theories. I promise you it's the case. I got my start after rough early part of life and I was very poor, so I had to, the very first job I had, I already had a baby and a wonderful wife. I'm not with her anymore. I've now got a really wonderful wife that I've been with for years. So wonderful people, but I had to put food on the table. So the very
Mhm.
first, well, I guess we could say very second real job I had was inside in communications for a pharmaceutical industry organization. And I worked very closely with top executives because of my role as in communications. And I will just say this to people, everything that you think about pharmacy industry is right and worse. Okay. I saw it from the inside. So it's not conspiracy, it's the reality. So I just say to people, educate yourself ever more so on how these industries take advantage of um, when you're not in control of the emotions, and emotions are still instead controlling you as well. So that's another key piece of the puzzle.
So what are some of the ways that people can be proactive and educate themselves about these industries that really don't have our best interest at
Mm,
heart, and honestly, I think we have to, you have to look at the bigger economic picture. And, we live in a world where profit is the bottom line. That's what they're going for. But, most people aren't really paying attention to that. If they're, let's say they do go into the grocery store or they do walk down the aisle of personal care products, they're not thinking that whatever's in this bottle or this tube or this makeup, um, that whoever made this doesn't have my best interest at heart. So,
right.
so where do you point people? How can they educate themselves and be
Right.
proactive?
Yep. Great question. And again, so part A, it goes back to the key that I've been talking about in the first half of this conversation, which is gaining awareness and therefore control over your emotions. That automatically puts you in the driver's seat when you do that, because now you are not nearly so vulnerable as most people are today. Now, ego, I have it, we all have it, is a big deal and it gets in our way. The number one reason all of these companies can get away with it is because nobody wants to believe that are they can be manipulated.
Mm.
It's clear to everybody that everybody else can be manipulated, but most people are like, but not me. I've got control over that. I can be manipulated. I routinely am still, and I'm highly aware of all this. And the difference, I suppose, would be in many cases, I relatively quickly recognize it and just like, oh my God, I just got played, whether it's a product, a service, anything like that. So we have to say, ego, I know you really want to be protective here, but get out of my way. I can be manipulated. And that is a very healthy step to take in order to not get manipulated. So that's part one. Part two, therefore, is simply what everyone is doing here. Learning, education. This is one of the healthiest things that you could be doing, everyone, is listening closely to a wonderful event like this one. And you guys do it great. And by listening closely to this, there's a double benefit because, first of all, obviously you're learning some important things, some of which is going to resonate well with you and will likely, if you implement even a few things, change your life for the much better, right? Also, simply the fact of this learning is creating new pathways in your brain. It's keeping your brain and therefore you young. So it's a very healthy thing to be doing this, in and of itself. Even if, of course, you're going to get a lot from, hopefully this conversation in this whole event, but it's just a healthy thing into itself. So learning is vital. I brought up briefly the example of the grocery store. When you know the tactics, when you know what's going on, it's much harder to be fooled by it. And I highly, at theartofantiaging.com, we've got all kinds of great articles. I put a lot of care into these, very evidence-based. Some of them are exactly about that. You brought up, and it's a passion topic of mine as well, cosmetics, personal care. So let me use that. And if you want to dive a bit deeper into that, so people are aware of what's going on there, so they're not bamboozled by it. Does that sound good, Lori?
Yeah, that's great. I'll tell you that, I do take people into the grocery store and we do, in addition to the food, where we're actually looking at the ingredient list, not the nutrition label, but the actual ingredient list, and then do the same thing with the personal care products. And it's like, if you wouldn't eat it, why would you put it on your body? So
Well
take it
said.
away. I know you're
Wow.
passionate about this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Because I will state confidently, it's by far the biggest little known health issue out there. Let me open that door. So the average woman uses about 12 personal care / cosmetics a day. So for some, obviously, it's much more than that. For some, it's less than that. Men are growing in that area, not too far behind. So 12 personal care products a day, which contain an average of 168 different chemicals. Most of them today really not good to downright horrible for you. Now, you said you asked the question about eating the ingredients, and I very similarly like to remind people when you are pushing a grocery cart down that cosmetics and personal care products aisle, you simply are pushing it down a food aisle. That's what it is. All right. People
Yes.
have been, well, in this sense, kind of brainwashed that their skin is different, and it's not like the rest of our body. I can experiment on it. That's insane. Your skin is the largest organ of your body. Your
Mm-hmm.
skin is the front line and arguably the most important line of defense for your immunity, for your immune system. It's got a lot of work that it's constantly doing. Your skin is not very happy when it's taxed exceedingly by you putting ingredients on that the companies told you would make you look younger or smell prettier, because you are doing a double whammy, really. So your skin, one of its roles is trying to keep all kinds of pathogens that are out there normally in our world, and now much more so in our world. It's trying to keep them out of you. Now, many people are slathering things on that they were told are going to help them. And you're putting a huge burden on your skin that already has a tough enough job. What happens though with these things that are sprayed on and put on your skin? Most of them are eaten by you. It's just eaten in a different way. So people think,
Right.
well, what are you talking about? No, it's not putting in your mouth. What you put on your skin, the vast majority of
Right.
it is consumed into your body. That
Right.
should be enough for people right there, right?
And
But because
sometimes directly into the bloodstream, right? Which is
oftentimes,
even
yeah,
even more egregious than eating something.
it is more egregious, and the reason is one of the reasons is so we're putting this stuff on your skin. It's penetrating into your dermal layers, your epidermis and dermis, and many of the molecules are indeed small enough to go straight into the blood. And the reason I would rather actually eat something by mouth than put some of these ingredients on the skin, as you alluded to it, when you put something in your mouth, it has multiple levels of potential filtering going on, such as the liver. In this case, it just goes straight in the bloodstream, so much of it, shot around your body, stored in your organs. Then everyone wonders, why am I dizzy often? Why am I getting sinus issues? Why do I have strange skin conditions? And nobody often can seem to answer the questions because you
Right.
are feeding your body what is primarily, with almost all of these ingredients, by the way, products that come from petroleum. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
And it's astounding to me how brainwashed we collectively have become, because I hear dermatologists back the chemical industry and say, "Oh, it's true. They've done. There's no problem with these artificial synthetic ingredients. And I'm like, are you insane? Let's back off on common sense. Do petroleum products belong in our body? Should we be eating them? Are you going to eat, byproducts of petroleum through your mouth? I don't know anybody that's going to say, yeah, they're good for us. Of course they're not. They're poison. So how are we even
Right.
arguing about this? How are we even? But we've gone down that path. If I could, the super short history here in the US, 1938, the FDA basically mandated that the cosmetics personal care products industry is on its own, and you entirely self-regulate yourself.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
there has really been no substantial legislation since that time. It has
Right.
become a Wild West where literally anyone here listening could put anything into a bottle. They can make a claim that it's going to help something. It's going to make you smell pretty. It's going to deodorize. It's going to, reverse,
Exactly.
your aging on you, whatever it may be. And they can put it on a shelf and they can
Yeah.
sell it.
Yes.
And
And
that's the big problem.
it's like, well, we've banned lead paint, we've
Yeah.
banned lead in gasoline, but somehow it still shows up in lipstick.
Yeah. Isn't that insane?
Mind
There's a
blowing.
lot. It is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Triclosan. I mean, Triclosan back in what is it, 2016 was banned, but only, even though it was found to be, destructive, it was banned, but only from soap. It's included and relatively common in facial creams and other things. I'm like, I'll tell you what's going on. I mentioned this much earlier. When people say, how big is the beauty care, cosmetics and beauty care industry, you hear figures like 500 billion. It's a lot more than that, because the real industry behind that industry is what? The chemical industry. But nobody even thinks of that. But that is the industry that really, really holds a lot of strings. And when I say that, I mean all the way to Washington, D.C. And it's not going to change. That's the depressing news for everybody. Eventually it may, when consumer habits are really change. But I said 168 chemicals a day that the average woman is consuming. Know this: there are well over 80,000 chemicals that are used. Okay. 1% have been tested for safety. 1%, of which, just because they're tested for safety doesn't mean they're actually safe, by the way. They're
Right.
just in these minute quantities, they will argue, are included because at these minute levels of inclusion of things like formaldehyde and sodium lauryl sulfate and so on and so forth, these ingredients in minute quantities, they're not going to harm you. We did short-term tests. Here's the problem. Nobody uses deodorant once. Nobody puts on an anti-aging cream once. If you did, I wouldn't be talking about this. We use these products collectively day after day, week after week, year after year, decade after decade. It is
Mm-hmm.
death by 1,000 or 10,000 cuts, because we just talked about bioaccumulation. So sure, if you used it one day, you don't have to worry about the minor levels of some of these toxic and known toxic ingredients. but you're doing it over and over and over. Not only are you doing it with one product, you're doing it on average 12 products a day. Not only that, but Lori, let's go back to science class in high school. What happens when you mix one chemical with another chemical? You get a different chemical. What happens when you mix 168 different chemicals together? We don't know, but we do know one thing. It is extremely likely that it's really bad for you. Now,
Mm-hmm.
these products, personal care, cosmetics, makeup, are loaded with this garbage, loaded. And it is really, like I said, the biggest little known health problem out there because of the abundance of use of these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's talk about toxic load then, because you said they accumulate, and so clearly our toxic load would be directly related to how quickly or how slowly we age. So,
Yes.
what are some of the things that you tell people about um, things that they can do? Let's say somebody who is tuning in and they're not really familiar with anti-aging. Like, what are a couple of things that they could do right off the bat that would make a big difference in their rate of aging?
Oh, well, the beautiful thing, I said that, first of all, three things come to mind. Two, or four things really. Three are very well discussed, and I noted at the very start, people have a pretty strong awareness of the most basic right steps. It doesn't mean they're taking them. We talked about why, but they at least know the right steps: diet, exercise, sleep. Right? You get those even kind of right. Now, the big problems out there, as I noted, are byproducts of the real cause, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the beautiful thing about them is it works both ways. When you start improving your sleep, start boosting the amount, of exercise, start eating a better diet, and I'm not saying even near perfect. Those have some wonderful effects on helping to reduce the toxins that are already inside your body. So you definitely want to pay attention to those things, right? Um, but the fourth area is the toxic load, and here a lot of people are like, oh my God, the problem is so severe. It sounds like just forget it. Don't worry about it, because the worry can be worse than any of these other toxins. The beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing, Lori, is every step that you take in a positive direction has more of a positive impact on your physical health than you realize. Meaning, when it comes, for example, so there's toxins indeed coming at us from multiple directions today.
Yes.
In the air inside, right? That understatement of the century.
Yeah.
But there's toxins in the air inside of our homes, excessive amounts in
Mm-hmm.
most cases.
In our
There's
food.
toxins in our food. There's toxins definitely in municipal water supplies and all
Mm-hmm.
water supplies. I mean, there's, as we're covering here, there's definitely a heavy duty amount of toxins in
Some
cosmetics
of
and
them
personal care.
purposefully put there, right, in the water supply.
Yeah, insanity. See, we can go down
Mm-hmm.
so many avenues here, Laura. But the point I'm trying to make is you're not going to solve it all. You're not going to eliminate it all. That's not the point. The point is just step by step reduction goes a really long way to helping your
Mm-hmm.
physical, mental, emotional health. It really does. So when it comes to personal care products, if you are financially able to, um, do a clean sweep. But most people are not financially able to. But what I mean is, take a close look at everything wherever you keep your cosmetics, in your bathroom and your personal care products. And unless they are genuinely clean, not they're not greenwashing you, BSing you. I could get even stronger words here. I won't, but they're truly clean products. Just throw them away and go replace, because the beautiful thing is we live in a time where awareness of this is growing, and there are conscientious, good companies out there. I'll say Purity Woods is one of them, but even if you don't, where everything we do is truly independently from anything I tell you, certified as
Mm-hmm.
organic. Okay. And I make a
Yes.
point of expressing that. So you don't have to believe me, believe the certification organizations, which are right there on our bottle. But even if it's not our organization, we have exceptional products for anti aging. I don't, please patronize any company fighting the good fight like that. And the beautiful thing is there's a fair amount of them now in virtually every category of personal care and cosmetics. It's a pretty darn easy step when you think of it. Now, if you're not able to clear it all and go get much healthier alternatives because finances might be tight, I always give people this tip. How close and extensively is it to your body? So,
Mm.
what I mean is, if it's something that you are putting directly onto your skin and it's meant to sit there for hours and hours or all day or all night, I would start there because and therefore your moisturizers, your anti-aging creams, deodorants are a big one. Anything you're putting on your facial skin, anything
Right.
like that. If money is really tight, start in those places and then work your way out to products. I'm not saying shampoo is not loaded with junk, because shampoos, typical ones, are loaded with garbage too.
Yeah.
But there, you lather your hair, you rinse a fair amount of it out. It's true there's some residue that sticks around.
Mm.
But if I have to choose between anti-aging, creams or moisturizers or deodorants or shampoo because money's tight, I'm going for clean on the one sitting on my skin all day, all night. So I can get very specific on tips like that. But again, versus how challenging it can be for some people to move away from a processed food diet to a healthy diet, or how challenging it could be if you sit around on the couch a lot to get back, heavy duty into exercise. Those are smart. Those are hard. Changing your cosmetics and personal care products, relatively speaking, is a wonderful, easy, monumental step to take for your health.
I love too that I love what you said about don't worry. And that's one of the things that I share with clients is that um, you can't control your health. You can support your health with your choices, but you can't control it. So it does, take that, because people can worry. And yeah, if they're afraid of aging, if
Mhm.
they're afraid of the environment, if they're afraid of the toxins, it's like, you know what, you make choices that are, like you said, you're just moving in the direction of, what is more appropriate and healthier for you. Oh gosh, I want to keep going, but we're finishing. We're coming to the close here, and as we finish up, I just want to kind of leave it open for you to share with the audience anything that you want to share with them to help them live their best life this year.
Yeah. Well, let's branch off from what you just brought up. That the reality is, for most of us, things are pretty good. We don't necessarily stay focused on that. We don't, and here too, we get some eye roll. But when you do make effort to recognize all that is good in your life, in other words, the word is gratitude, and that can either attract some people who really live that and understand, and it can repel people who are all like, yeah, 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 I've heard that before, but again, tell me the superfood of the month. No, most of us, really all of us, have some things to be grateful for. Some things. It's so important to focus on that. It's so important to not worry. And that goes back to the very start of this conversation. And that's why I did slip that in. If you find yourself worried about not taking enough any step that I've talked about today, or not taking any step you hear throughout this entire event, that is a bigger deal than the step itself. In other words, that worry is that's fear. That is
Mm-hmm.
what will most, well, I hate to use this word, but I'm going to be strong here, bury you. Instead, recognize that when you're feeling that way. Recognize that. Then perhaps also do some gratitude work. Find something. It could be the smallest thing. It could be monumental. It could be, relationships in your life. It could be the fact that this morning I ate, which I did, a pineapple that was juicy and delicious, and that's something to celebrate. Whatever it is, gear yourself to positivity. And I know that's another trigger word, but it's true. There's Becca Levy did this research and has been doing some research for some time about mindset, about healthy aging, about aging itself. And that is one of these places where there's either going to be no fear, no worry, and that will help you, or there's a lot of fear. I base the whole mission of the artofAntiaging.com on a very important mission, which is two-part. Yes, we provide evidence-based steps to live longer and live well while living longer. But part one is that we are dedicated to helping people bypass the myths of aging that drag people down. And those myths go that when you hit 40, it's all downhill from here. That, 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s are the decline years. That's not true. The reality is that 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond ought to be, and I'm telling you this from a scientific standpoint, the best years of your life. So it's important to recognize the blocks inside that might stop you from living the best years of your life, including your very beliefs about what aging is. That's another one. Ask yourself, what do I really think getting older means? And it ought to mean, and I'm telling you again, that is not my opinion, that is science. It ought to mean I'm about to live the best years of my life. So live the best years of your life, live the best year of your life via this event. And I'm so glad you had me here, Laurie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And thanks for a wonderful conversation. And I'm sure that people got a lot out of it. And so how can people find more about you and the work that you're doing in the world?
Yeah, that's easy. Go to theartofAntiaging.com. We have a wonderful free newsletter if you're interested. And again, heavy duty focus on verified evidence-based steps from all walks, a lot of nutrition, a lot of related to toxins, et cetera, but very interesting, I hope, to people. So go to theartofAntiaging.com for that. Check out the blog there. Very proud of how much work we put into that, the articles there. And then if you are interested in products that really you don't have to worry about harming your health while it contains nature's. I'm a plant geek, by the way. I love research on plants and stuff. So it contains truly nature's most potent ingredients, for eliminating things like wrinkles and stuff, some of the products, right? There's a range of products. Go to puritywoods.com. Everything is certified organic, and you could check that out there. Thanks for asking, by the way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brian. And thanks for tuning in, everybody.